The Georgia running back position is something to pay attention to. Now, I know wire to wire, everyone across the board right now has Georgia as the preseason number one. With good reason. They should be the preseason number one. That does not mean they're not without flaws. I've listened to Kirby Smart talk up there a time or two so far this spring, and he keeps on talking about how he's worried about depth at certain positions. I get the feeling some folks think he's lying to them. I get the feeling some people believe Kirby Smart's just trying to manufacture doubt about his team. He's telling you the truth. They have depth issues. They've got depth issues at running back right now. So if you're looking on your screen, you already see it. If you're listening on podcast, Kendall Milton is out right now. He has not been practicing because he's got a hamstring injury. You look elsewhere on that depth chart. Dejon Edwards is a senior. He's there, okay, so we've got him. But outside of that, Branson Robinson's coming off a foot injury, I think last year or either in the spring. Andrew Paul is a redshirt freshman. He had an ACL tear last year. Rod Robinson is a true freshman. There's just not a lot of proven depth and not a lot of overly healthy depth behind Kendall Milton, and he's out right now. I'll tell you what that does. For those of you who have ever rooted for a team that dealt with a ton of injury concern at a certain position, it impacts the way you can practice. And it's impacting Georgia and the way they can practice right now. Now, I'm not going to tell you Georgia's going to all of a sudden struggle to run the football. You don't have to drop off 100 yards per game on average, guys. If you have a new quarterback, and you also have a situation at wide receiver, and this is part two of what I'm trying to talk to you about. You got a situation maybe at wide receiver where no true wide receiver one has emerged so far in fall camp, and that's according to our folks down there that are around the program day to day. Then what are we talking about here? Don't you want to own the line of scrimmage? Don't you want to be able to run the ball down folks' throats? Hasn't that been Georgia's MO? It could be this year, but you got to do it with healthy running backs. Dogs 24/7 is the place to keep up with that. Like, talking to Jordan Hill over there, talking to Wolk over there. They're trying to paint as real a picture for you as they can. Just stay tuned. They haven't even gone through their first scrimmage yet. This is not time to sound any alarm. They'll still be favored every game. They may very well be fine and run the ball for half a mile per game. It's something to just keep an eye on. I think I may have sounded a little too alarmist there. So let me just go ahead and get in front of it so the eye Josh doesn't blow up. Not sounding the alarm. I'm just saying keep an eye on it. How about Penn State? Did the Lions 24/7 pod the other day. Tyler Donahue and all the folks up there do really, really good work. I am really interested in the Penn State linebacker position. You know, once upon a time, they called this place Linebacker U. Maybe they will again this year. So if you haven't been keeping up, this time last year, linebacker was at the very least a question mark, if not an outright weakness, because Curtis Jacobs was the only proven commodity really that we knew anything about entering 2022. Fast forward a year. We enter 2023, and we know for sure the top three there, but also they returned 5 of 6 who played 200-plus snaps last year. So they've got a ton of experience in that room right now, and talking to some folks close to the program up there, they think they have 7 or 8 in that linebacker room that they can lean on. And when you think about what cost Penn State last year, they didn't lose 5 or 6 games, but think about the game they lost against Michigan. What happened in the Michigan game? Couldn't stop the run to save their lives. Couldn't plug gaps to save their lives. I'm not telling you that problem gets turned off overnight. I am telling you if you've got that kind of dependable, proven veteran depth in that linebacker room, it greatly helps. We had Steve Sarkisian on the show the other night and got a lot of good reviews on that. Sark and company had a good day on the recruiting trail today. We'll talk about that later. But as far as camp scoop, I'm hearing some things about the Texas running back position. Now, if you are a more, I'm not going to say casually minded person, but if you choose to acknowledge the offseason, then you come back to college football in the fall and you find out, well, they lost Bijan Robinson. He was really good. They lost Roschon Johnson. He was also pretty good. I can only assume Texas is going to be weak at the running back position, right? Well, not necessarily. Jonathan Brooks last year, now only in 51 carries, averaged over 6 yards a carry. He's there. And also, C.J. Baxter is a 5-star true freshman that everyone expects to play this year. It's just a question of how quickly will he be able to be depended on. 6'1", 218. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes guys have names and you correlate it to the kind of player you think they are. This could literally be just me. When I hear C.J. Baxter, I think scat back. He is not that. He is 6'1", pushing 220, as a true freshman, will be a between the tackles guy. He's got really good hands. They very physical, as you could imagine, with the kind of offense Sark wants to run. Pass pro, pass pro, pass pro. Can they depend on him on carries where maybe he doesn't touch the football? And for that matter, Brooks as well. So that running back position, keeping a close eye on that. I don't think Texas needs to be elite. They don't need to have a top 10 running back room, but they better be good enough at that position. If they can be good enough at tailback, and I think that's a room that'll improve during the season. That's what a lot of people around the program think. That is how they get the most out of that wide receiver room. I want to go to Tennessee for just a second. So picture in your mind Tennessee football, especially last year. What do you think about? You obviously think about offense, right? Everyone focuses on offense with a Josh Heupel team. Linebacker is a critical unit on this team. The folks closer to the program know it. The folks covering the program are talking about it constantly behind the scenes. So Aaron Beasley is back there. But there are some other names, and maybe you don't even know Beasley, but if you're closer to the program, you know Aaron Beasley. He led them in tackles last year. He's back. All right, I want you to listen to this. So Keenan Peely, that's my best guess at the pronunciation right now. He's a redshirt senior, and when I say redshirt senior, I mean a Brigham Young redshirt senior, which means he's closer to 30 years old with, he's married, right, Jesse? Isn't he for real married? Okay, I was about to joke around saying he's married. He actually is married. Probably got a sensible mortgage, down payment on several cars at this point. He is also going to happen to play college football linebacker this year in Knoxville, Tennessee. They've got him there. Elijah Herring and Caleb Perry are sophomores that are very much emerging in fall camp. At least that's the word we get. But Arian Carter is a name. All the way at the bottom of the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, they beat out Alabama for him. He's an in-state kid. And he's actually down from near Smyrna, because where we play softball, he actually went to high school not too far from there. Priceless nugget of information for those of you out there, by the way. Arian Carter is what everyone's talking about there. Even with all that experience returning, a true freshman, that's the guy they're talking about. If not immediately, then eventually this year, he'll be on the field. Vols 24/7, Patrick Brown, really good with the intel over there. If you need the day-to-day, make sure you're checking out vols247.com. I've talked to you about Louisville a time or two. Louisville is one of the sleeper teams, partly because you have so many new pieces there. Jeff Brom is now the head coach there, but also the schedule is just kind of weird in a good way for Louisville. Well, kind of the same drill with Tennessee, to be honest with you. If you think about Jeff Brom coming into Louisville, the first thing your mind goes to is offense. Hey, what kind of offense are they going to have? Well, here's the reality. The reality is they've got an experienced offensive line. They got a really good 1-2 at running back. And defense is actually what a lot of insiders around Louisville expect to surprise the country this year. They portaled really well there, and the style of play overall with Louisville this year, I think may surprise some people. You think Jeff Brom coming in, you think throwing the football all over the place. I actually think they'll pound the rock. I think they'll be much better than expected defensively. Here's the problem for the ACC. Colin, I'm going to let this B-roll run for a second because it looks really pretty. But eventually, if you have Louisville's schedule, could you pop it up for me for just a second? Because I want to remind you guys, I know a lot of you may be watching the show tonight, and it's the first show that you've watched in several months. I don't expect you to have Louisville's schedule memorized. So I'm going to be the one to tell you, yeah, they play in the ACC. Yeah, they got a new head coach over there, so yeah, there's a lot of unknown. And yeah, it's a Florida State Clemson world right now, and everyone else is just living in it. But if you look at Louisville's schedule, they don't play Florida State. They don't play Clemson. They don't play North Carolina. So those are conference games. And so while everyone else beats up on each other, what could Louisville be doing? And especially if they're better than you expect defensively, that's a team that can dive bomb people. Or bludgeon people, who knows? So keep an eye on Louisville. Jody Demling over at Cardinal Authority has had that well covered. And so if you're a subscriber over there, you're probably not surprised by what I'm saying. But I think in some corners of the ACC, they may be surprised this year. Just quickly, I wanted to let you know something that's going on up at Kansas, of all places. So I think this is a good thing. They had a former 5-star offensive lineman come in via the portal, Logan Brown. And look, I was reading some of Michael Swain's stuff over on fog.net, and you just expect when Kansas gets a former 5-star offensive lineman, it's a plug-and-play situation. He is not running with the ones. And it may be because he hasn't had the best spring or summer, but it's also because they got decent depth there. So Kansas, right up there, no matter which metric you value, right up there at the top of the country in terms of returning production. That includes quarterback, but also a lot on the offensive line. Hey, North Carolina is another one I want to talk to you about just a second. Ben Sherman, the folks over at InsideCarolina.com, they're saying what I want to hear. Oh, but I really, really need to hear it a whole lot. Here's what I want to hear with North Carolina. I'm going to lean close to the mic. Defensive line looking a little bit better than anticipated. Actually, they're saying a lot better than anticipated. Amari Gaynor from the portal. Let's cross our fingers. They've still got Des Evans. Travis Shaw is still up there. Tamari Fox, really big surprise for them. I think he was out last year. So there are a lot of names. They haven't lacked for names defensively. They've just lacked for production of any kind defensively. They were right near the bottom of FBS in most discernible defensive metrics last year. That was last year. I don't know what kind of quantum leap I can expect from them this year. If they're just, I don't know, top 60, that would be great. It would also be a pretty big achievement. It'd be great. What could they accomplish if they just make that kind of leap? It'd be nice.